Hello, everyone. This is episode 35 of the Dresden Files podcast, member of the Broken Jars Network. This is also the first one of the year 2017 after all of the holidays. And there's a Broken Jars special that was really fun that you should check out, especially if you want to see me get drunk. There's no other news, I don't think. So today we're doing the Gear, Gadgets, Guns series that I started just because I like the alliteration and not because I can really defend whether anything is a gear or a gadget. At least gun is nice and direct. So we've got a document of all of the stuff that they used in the books that we're covering, which specifically are Summer Night and Death Masks. And we're going to talk about the evolution of all of the stuff. So let's start. In Summer Night, for fun, we can start with Ebenezer's truck, because I looked up that specific make and model, a black 1937 Ford pickup, and it is pretty.
Right. It's pretty, and it fits into Wizards like old things for multiple reasons. I mean, 1937's at least, pre-World War II and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the things that's fun about Summer Night is that you see some of the gear that the White Council shows up with because they finally do show up. And so you get to see a little bit more of Ebenezer, and you kind of meet him the first time and all that jazz.
Yes.
I'm trying to find it on the spreadsheet. Is it there, or do I have to Google it?
It's listed in there. It's on the second page. So
yeah, it's right here.
There it is.
Yes, I will be also linking this document that we are looking at in the Reddit post. So if you want to look through all of the stuff, and I have pictures and or links.
I imagined it completely different when I listened to it.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this, kind of. So there's all of that stuff. Also, there's that hologram gem thing that Morgan does and that he ripped from Star Wars. So I just have a screenshot of Star Wars.
That's
awesome.
Shut up. Right. No, I wasn't thinking about Summer Night in terms of Elaine either, though. But that's another good one where you even get to the personal level with the Wizards, where a lot of her gear and gadgets, like her earring and her anklets instead of a shield bracelet type of thing. So
yeah, if I was doing artificing of magical stuff, I would definitely depend on jewelry more than a giant hunk of wood.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, okay,
phallus.
Yeah, right. So I still got to go with the phallic symbols there, just because it's the whole wizard image. You've got to look like a wizard. So I would definitely play it Harry's thing, where it's like, look, I'm cool being progressive and having the 44 Magnum or whatever. In Summer Night, I'm sure it's just a 357 or something along those lines still. But yeah, I would have to have the wizard staff because fuck you, that's why. So
I mean, sure, but how much does the blasting rod, the giant gun, the staff, anything else that he's carrying weigh versus she has 5 pieces of jewelry?
Right. Well, and that's fair. The staff is also a weapon. I mean, depending on what we're imagining. I mean, if I was Harry's power level, I would probably spend some of the time not being so much of a nerd and learning actually how to use my magic, because I'd probably get away from the blasting rod as a rule, but I would at least still carry a staff. So
the blasting rod in general doesn't really do a whole lot, just because he's always losing it. So
well, there's that, but it does focus his magic. So
yeah, I also I had fun doing these things of noting all of the specific things that are relevant for a half a page, like the letter opener that Mab uses with Harry and all that stuff.
And it's literally never okay unless Jim watches this and writes it in later somehow. That is never gonna come up again. Never ever.
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of significant for a little bit, so I'm putting it in there as gear because. I don't know.
I wouldn't put it past Jim if he actually watches this once in a while and he's like, "Oh yeah, never gonna come up again." I'll fucking show him.
I think Elaine, in terms of the shield, anklet, and earring, that's actually I think smarter than Harry's shield bracelet, just because his wrist. I feel like that's so easy for someone to rip off of him or him to lose or whatever, but. An anklet has to go all the way around your foot, and an earring, I don't know. It seems more practical.
Well, and
I
looking,
don't think nobody's ever like taken it off him, right? The shield breastplate. That's never happened.
just melted it, which we'll discuss way later. But with Elaine's gear, like if you look at it, a lot of it makes sense for a dancer as well, somebody who's expecting to move or literally incorporating that in part of her thing. If you think about it, this is, I don't think it's in Summer Night either, so this would be White Night, so major spoilers, but whatever. When she uses, like, instead of doing a staff, she uses a chain, for example. So all of her stuff is about moving, whereas Dresden really is more about, being a fucking wall, in a lot of ways. He is the unstoppable force and the immovable object, whereas Elaine definitely sides on the more of the finesse, because even in Summer Night, for example, like differences in their wizardry, like she is similar on his power level, but mostly she can't throw out the raw power like she can, but she can have the same kind of effects because she makes up for it in finesse and things that Harry, I mean, hell, we're 15 books in, and he still hasn't fully mastered, a lot of the finesse that it takes for like some of the major wizards and the major powers that we see.
So I guess the best way to describe her and her power level would probably be she is like the perfect balance between Harry and Molly. Right?
Nah, I think that's kind of a reach. I mean, I put her a little bit more towards Lucio's level, where like Lucio would probably flatten Dresden in an arm wrestling contest, magically speaking, just because she has the experience for it. But like when you see Lucio, and I mean Lucio's of course even past Elaine, but when you see her show up for the first time really in Deadbeat and Throwdown and everything, she's basically using Harry's kind of magic, but infinitely more refined. And Harry himself is like, shit, man, that's crazy. So
yeah, Lucio is definitely more refined than Harry, and Elaine is as well. But like, I mean, Elaine is closer to Harry than any of the other people because she does have a similar level of power. Not as much as Harry does, but in the descriptions of her, she is also a heavyweight like that. She's just like a little bit less, more refined, and still a heavy evocator versus the others, which like Molly is not. Lucio is kind of out of experience, but I don't think that's her main thing because she also did the like crafting the swords and stuff. That probably has to be the main thing she's good at is crafting.
Right. Well, and
she's also good with magic.
Yeah, with Elaine, it's not to undercut her. Like worst case scenario, she's like 80% of Harry's power, and then fills in the rest with finesse. But when you think about like skill levels and how difficult it is, it would be much easier for Elaine to do a bunch of magical push-ups, for lack of a better word, and catch up to Harry's power level than it's ever going to be for Harry to be that, good at finesse. So like you could argue that she is better than Harry in a lot of ways, because if she really put her mind to it, or if she stopped holding back, for example, you'd see that kind of heavy weight. But one of Harry's main things to me, and like it always struck me, was just his force of will is what gives him the edge. Like he's just obstinate in every way, and so that's the thing that he has that you can't teach to most other wizards. Like they'll try and they'll, get some of the core concepts down, but that's where the whole immovable object part comes in, where it's just like he does shit because no one's told him it's impossible, or even if they did, he didn't believe them.
So you're telling me he would be a great Green Lantern then?
Perhaps. Like, there we go. There's a crossover. Jim, get on it. You like comic books, man. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
It was Summer Night. We first see a bunch of changelings, and Fix and Meryl and Lily obviously kind of stick around, but well, not really Meryl. But I thought there was this thing that cosplayers have failed me, because when I like look up Harry's blasting rod or staff or something, one image of that, I go to the cosplayers for it. Really, they're really dedicated, but not one of them did the denim jacket covered in silverware. I want that. I want a picture of that.
For Meryl?
Yeah, her battle dress going into the fairy war battle, and it's just like, come on.
Maybe
for like a day.
Like it's a character in one book. I mean, maybe they were just nobody bothered.
But
nobody was
awesome
fascinated.
Character.
Yeah,
nobody was fascinated with Meryl. She was just a throwaway, who gives a shit character.
Right, and Meryl's
Come on.
Meryl's one of those characters that's interesting as a character, but like most people would hate to be that person, right? And so like Meryl is not. I mean, she's heroic. Don't get me wrong, but she's not the like gleaming armor in the front. She's not the pretty Molly that everybody wants to be like. She's not all of these things because she's a fucking half troll. And at the end of the day, like she was not great looking. Like Dresden goes out of his way to describe every woman he meets as beautiful, whether they are or not. I don't think Meryl gets that treatment. So maybe that's why just. Partially because she's like a one-off character and doesn't impact the story really, other than that one moment, But yeah, no, it'd be neat to see somebody do it. If I knew somebody over 6 feet tall and that sort of thing, like maybe I'd be like, yeah, you should put on this jacket I made you for reasons. So I'll keep that in mind.
I won't explain it to you, but just do it.
Well,
You're
also
right.
you need to convince them to dye their hair green for reasons.
Okay,
Oh,
I mean.
Skin paint. Don't forget that.
Right. Yeah, one person does come to mind. So actually, I do have a friend that could do that, but we'd have to commandeer her silverware or something like that. So
Yeah, I want pictures of that because I just felt disappointed. Like, come on, someone's got to do this just for it's shiny.
Right. I'm kind of surprised that there isn't at least a DeviantArt somewhere or something, like somebody drew it, but
I didn't find it. I mean, maybe there is, but I didn't
early
find it.
2000s, right there. Is that still a thing? People still use that site?
which
Yeah.
DeviantArt?
DeviantArt, yeah.
Well, yeah, DeviantArt. Like there's subreddits that are almost only reposting DeviantArt. So
Yeah,
it's still
Broken
pretty big.
Jars has gotten multiple logos from hiring people from DeviantArt.
Yeah.
I just remember I used to get like Photoshop brushes and stuff from that site back in like 2005 or something. Like that's still a thing.
Let's see, in Summer Night, we also had the showdown in the Walmart, which was fun all around. And there's the chainsaw and the marble mishap, and I have pictures of all of them. Sterno cans. A blue Walmart smock, if you didn't know what that looks like.
Smock. I have no idea what that is.
Bless you.
Do you not know?
I was
In person, do you not know what Walmart smock looks like?
Yeah, so Walmart, and then I was going to be like Home Depot, and then I was like, yeah, I have no fucking idea like what you would have there that might have a smock. But it's basically like it's
one of those things.
yeah,
Nobody
it's
wears
like,
that here.
Oh, what the hell's it called in the kitchen? Thank you, aprons.
Apron.
So, I mean, I don't know what the difference is, but I'm sure there is one. Maybe a smock has pockets and an apron doesn't, but who knows? But anyway, yeah. Well, you're wrong. For the thing that I just invented.
What just says is law.
Oh, but I'm the Lord Commander Director. Come on.
Yeah, because I said so, though. I mean, so really, like full circle.
That is true. Justin is indeed Lord Ruler of the Universe. You're just the Lord Ruler of the broadcast.
I
but I have to
ascribe
give him
none of
homework.
this, by the way. Like, no, but so I'm just going through this. I mean, so one of the things that I had difficulty with that the director and I discussed offline beforehand was like some of this shit is just minutia, and it's like, hey, there's the bolt cutters that Murphy used for 5 seconds in that one scene at the Walmart, or like the blue smock. Like, woo, man, there's some plot impacting
Well,
stuff.
apparently
right
it was helpful for the European member of our podcast.
there. You're right.
it.
He's the one person who didn't know, and then
I'm sure there are other European viewers.
I was going to say hi the other European viewer or possibly Asian. So
when I do this, I get a lot more detail. Like for myself, like I forgot or didn't ever pay attention to the fact that Harry had a water gun filled with gasoline that he sprayed on Grum in order to light him on fire.
yeah,
And
super soaker.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he described it as yellow and green, and I just said water gun, and the yellow and green was the first one that came up on Google Images. It's like, yes, but I
Right.
don't think I remembered that.
I have to say, with in regards to Harry's choice of certain weapons, he's very inventive. You know,
Oh yeah,
holy water balloons. You know, the little squirt gun with gasoline or holy water. Like that's pretty inventive.
right.
I mean, holy water and a water pistol. That's just a match made in heaven. You know that's gonna happen.
That's
Like,
right.
That's just an idea that that has to happen. Like, okay, there are vampires in the world. Water gun with holy water. That's like one of the first things you think about.
I know, it's like St. Giles worries about all these high-powered rifles and shit, but really they need to worry about having super soakers and just drench vampires in holy water. So,
Just like that scene in the John Constantine movie.
Yes.
right.
Yes, on
And I'm so
everything
sad that
Constantine.
did anyone else watch the John Constantine TV show?
I think I've seen a couple episodes.
Too bad they got canceled. That was actually really good.
I read
Very
something.
Dresden-ish.
Yeah, I read something on IO9 today that they're going to bring it back as an animated show, actually. So they're
Not as
now.
interested. I like the main character, man. I want to see him, like the guy
Right.
playing him. He was good.
Yeah,
Well, they actually brought him back for an episode of Arrow. That was actually a pretty cool.
Please don't bring up that show in my presence.
Let's get back to Dresden, which we all like and enjoy.
True.
Yeah, so I was looking through here. So minutia, but interesting to the plot, is like when Elaine uses the Beatles tire air stem, the tire valve, basically to track Harry.
Yeah, I assume most people know what they look like, and/or it just doesn't matter what they actually look like. But it was important, so I added it.
You also added things that wasn't important, like smugs.
It was helpful to you. God damn it!
You put a lot of hard work into this, guys.
I did.
Come on.
I know I'm gonna have to go through this and add to my list of keywords to look for, like smock and tire stem. So.
And if you didn't know what a D&D game looks like, I also added in a picture of that. You nerds.
Which is funny because they're playing Arcanos, you heathens. So,
I don't even know what an Arcanos game is.
It's just another D&D copycat, right? It's like this
he
D&D
didn't want to
Pathfinder.
get.
Who gives a shit?
He didn't want to rip off TSR, and there are people that they're going to take offense to that statement, director. So, watch out. There are nerds who are going to write angry letters. All right, so
You need the rule books to know the specific mechanics, but they're all the same basic concept. I know because I've played several.
You're gonna get
that's just blasphemy
against you, director.
Well, I haven't played the Dresden RPG yet because we've been procrastinating, and that's a fate system, which I'm very unsure about. But
right.
there's
The
also
fate system
the pretty
is supposed to
Chinese
be
temple
very
dogs.
Open.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the little artificer hounds. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
They're supposed to be really big, though, right? Like the size of an actual large dog. Even though that picture that I have makes them look kind of small.
Well, large dog probably being like 3 or 4 feet tall. I mean, I didn't imagine Great Dane size, but maybe. I mean, well, here's the thing: foo dog size, right? So probably about mouse's size, roughly, maybe a little smaller. So yeah, probably sufficiently big. Makes more sense why Dresden's worried about them, because I always imagine the little statues that you see outside of Chinese restaurants, and I'm like, well, I'm sure they're powerful and maybe cut through magic and shit. But yeah, imagining them as like robotic, mouse, basically. It was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's different.
I'm looking at the description for Harry's war clothes, and would it be fair to call him emo? Because everything is black except for the Coca-Cola symbol.
Is that all that takes to be emo? Is just wearing all black?
Gee.
I mean, I'm wearing all black and I have eyeliner on. Am I emo and I didn't know it?
You're like
That's a good step in
emo
the right
right
direction.
now. It's like, do you feel the emotions? You feeling it?
And to be fair, Harry does need to use his emotions as fuel for his magic. So,
He is so emo.
I mean, I haven't seen him cut himself, but Mab's cut him, so why not? That maybe that's the thing. He doesn't do the self-harm. He just like goes and gets his ass kicked all the time
He doesn't do the self-harm, he just does the harm part.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like, anyway.
Yeah, okay. Now it's time for the gun section of Summer Night. Justin, you have opinions, I'm sure.
Well, so Summer Night, I was looking over the list and it's not amazing. So one of the things that I've noticed going through here, and a lot of times I don't include the weapons unless they're like plot specific, but Harry doesn't describe weapons very well, and I don't know if that's just mostly because Butcher doesn't do it or because it's not important to the story or what the case is, but like there's probably a dozen entries in here and most of them are unspecified or generic, where it's like we've got automatics, we've got rifles and stuff like that. So he also, like, Murphy's weapons get described usually and Harry's weapons get described. Like, those are the two you can almost always count on. Almost always. So Harry uses a 44, which is interesting because he doesn't fully start using it until later, I think, because I think he loses the 357 at this battle. And so he's used the 357 all the way up to here. And then I believe he loses it here. No. He either loses it here or he loses it fighting the Denarians at the harbor. So it's one of those two.
I think it's that
if anyone else watching is just hearing numbers and that's it, you're not alone.
They're calibers. The bigger the number, so the bigger the primary number, like 357 is 0.357. Those are millimeters, I believe. And so if the higher it goes up, like 44, the bigger the round. So when he starts using a 50 in a skin game, for example, like that's the largest practical handgun caliber that most people come into contact with. So
he loses the 357 in the battle with the fairy courts. So he says in chapter 10 of Death Masks, because I have it on my computer.
Okay, so I remembered reading it, but I did for all three books a little bit, so I wasn't sure which one, because I'm pretty sure in Blood Rights he mentions like I had to move the 44 from the office to my house, or maybe it is Death Mask that I'm thinking of, where he talks about moving it. So,
that's the same passage.
Okay, so it's in Death Mask. He talks about it. So apparently he uses both in Summer Night, which is interesting because he most of the time you see his gear, and part of how it evolves is that it gets broken or lost in a previous book. One exception being this case, apparently, where he has both of the firearms, his sidearms here. And the other one that struck me, my last read through, was the shield bracelet's broken for like 3 freaking books. And he just never replaces the damn thing because he's still, it's like maybe 2.5 because finally
because he doesn't really have the necessary motor function to do it.
I thought it was mostly just laziness and lack of money for the materials. And we'll get to that. That's not this.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's another example. So, other specific weapons. Go ahead.
I thought there's something very interesting. Like he uses the description of mini Uzi when the hitmen attack him in the park from the Tigress and stuff. It's like I just googled mini Uzi and turns out that's actually a thing. It's not just a gun that's like that. That's just smaller. It's actually a small Uzi. I didn't know that existed. It's hard to find pictures of it because you can find it on the Google image, but then they were lost or something.
Right. Well, it'll be fun that if we ever finally get a proper TV show or movie or something like that, we'll have an Internet Movie Firearms database entry where you'll be able to look all of this up, and maybe we'll all contribute to that because we've already done the research. But so the only other thing out here that's really specified is that Murphy uses a Colt 1911.
Wait, that's a thing? There's an Internet Movie database for firearms? Like, what firearms were used in what movie and should go in what episode?
Well, if you go watch a movie and you're like, hey, what gun is that? You can go. It's basically like IMDb for guns for movies. So
I have legit never even considered what gun is that.
Right?
Well, how's this? Harry describes his 44 revolver as a Dirty Harry Magnum multiple times.
Right.
Well,
that's
the type of revolver that Dirty Harry used.
Right. Yeah. So it's 44 is the most powerful handgun in the world, it's also one of the most famous because of that moment in that line, so
But do you feel lucky?
Right, exactly. So like even Europeans know about the 44 Magnum, at least by name, because of that line.
It's like a big 6-shooter, right? It has the barrel or the spinning.
Yeah, revolver.
There's a picture, Andreas.
Yeah, right. Whatever picture you have, it better be the Dirty Harry one because it'd be hilarious. But yeah,
I think what it is a picture like a Polaroid
of the gun.
A Dirty Harry thing, and then like a gun right next to it or something. Just look at the picture.
Right. So, yeah. So, anyway, so yes, there is an Internet Movie Firearms database. Part of it that's interesting because they usually even talk about the fictional weapons in a little bit. It's not like you go there to learn a lot. You mostly just get pictures and, okay, now I know what that gun is. And I use it to look at because I have some of the same makes and models and, using them to potentially cosplay off of not a live firearm, but, just knowing that's what the base model was is neat. So, so Murphy uses a Colt 1911 here, which is interesting because later on she settles down for the SIG and that sort of thing. Like a 1911 would be pretty big for Murphy's frame, depending on, why and wherefore and that sort of thing. Like it's a full size, proper, big handgun for most people. So
there actually was a weapon I knew by name, which Murphy doesn't have yet in what we're discussing, but it's the P90. Because of Stargate and Counter-Strike.
Yeah, right.
Future episode.
I know this one. I was like, yes.
Right. Yeah, so...
there's also... This is when there's that like ankle holster thing, and she has a tiny gun, and Harry's like, Murphy's got a girl gun. Right. Murphy's got a girl gun, because it's tiny.
Right, the little girl gun. Yeah.
Man, and he survived? I don't remember that.
Yep. No, it's a good moment.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I skipped the first 4 books.
Because you're wrong.
Why are you on this podcast?
So
I've still listened to them multiple times. When I do it now, I'm like kind of like, man, I mean, 1 to 2 is just like great. 3 is okay. I find 4 a little bit boring. Let's just start at 5.
Right. Yeah, give people the option because it's fair, but no, I always tell them like you could do this, but you'd be wrong. So.
I mean, I did listen to them multiple times.
Into Death Masks?
Yeah, Death Masks I think is more interesting in a lot of ways. So like Summer Night is one of those that I don't give it its fair shake. Like a lot of important things happen in Summer Night, but Summer Night and White Night were like 2 of my least favorites. So Death Masks is
wrong.
I know.
I like White Night.
But Death Mask
is
some magic swords and way more focus on gear and that sort of thing. So,
like, if you don't like Death Mask,
I don't really ever think of it that way because I think of Summer Night as being much more gear focused because I remember always thinking of Elaine's gear and the descriptions of it, so it just kind of stood out to me. I don't really get that feel with Death Masks, but yeah, there are just the swords, the guns.
Right. And it's not like when I'm reading it, that's what I'm thinking, like, oh man, here's the gear book. But while we were doing this research, like the books get more and more gear intensive, at least of the 3 we initially were looking at. Because even Death Mask compared to Blood Rights, when we get to that one next time, there's more gear and yet less description in some ways. But in this one, it's kind of a spy thriller, and we've got to introduce the knights. So you get spy gear and swords and stuff like that. So
spy gear?
Well, ish. I mean, because the thieves, right? So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And right. I always forget the duel is in this one as well. So you get a fair amount from Kincaid and Ivy, both in response to them.
Oh yeah, both of those stories are in the same book.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I don't quite like the book as much as Summer Night. It's like, oh yeah, that's part of it.
Right.
Fuck.
Well, and it was the same thing with Grave Peril, because Grave Peril was so huge and there was so much going on that I thought they were 2 different books on my first read through. So, like when I was remembering back to them, I could never place where the nightmare was and things like that because there was so much going on. And the duel kind of is that way as well. Like in order to help place the duel, just remember Shiro's there. Bum, bum, bum. So
Shiro at the duel?
Yes, he's Harry.
Oh yeah, right. He plays. He's like
Was Well, he was initially
Hero-
a second, so
Yeah, got kidnapped, and so Harry had to go to the bench, which was Susan. So Kincaid says, "Nice bench."
right. Okay, I got you.
Right.
But yeah, he started out with him as his second anyway. So yeah, you are right.
And I know I'm right.
Wait, was Shiro
The
kidnapped, or I thought he offered himself up? And
he did that, but I just say kidnapped because, held hostage, sort of.
Right.
I included the camera and microphones and equipment for Larry Fowler's studio. And
Yeah.
I think it's important that they get destroyed because that follows
Only
Harry
because
for
it's
a while.
brought up for 10 more books, every now and again, where it's Harry's life sucks. Let me introduce this little nugget on why Harry's life sucks. So, which really, honestly, I guess if you were reading from book 7 and you saw that, you'd be like, "What the hell happened there?" and want to go look it up or something. But yeah, that's funny.
Well, it is important because he does start out the show where he devises the spell that keeps his magic within a tight bubble around him.
Right.
And then as he gets more stressed, it slowly starts to fade away. So that's a pretty cool tell that
He never uses that again, I think, that spell.
Actually, he did just a little bit when Susan and Harry were trying to go after Marcone and the Shroud and stuff, is that she gets on a cell phone and Harry tries to use that spell in order to not blow up the cell phone next to her face.
Right.
But that's the only other time I can think of.
Yeah, I remembered it being in an elevator or something, so maybe it's that scene. Or
They were dancing in the middle of a dance.
Oh,
floor.
is it dancing? Yeah. Okay.
I remember several scenes where when he's near technology, he's like, "Okay, I'm standing over here thinking technology-friendly thoughts."
Yeah.
He never specifically says that he's trying to hold back his magic. He did.
Yeah,
that,
it's never in the description of a spell after this, but he did it twice in this book. Never again.
Do you think Jim maybe just kind of forgot about it? I was like, nah, that's stupid. I'm not going to use that again.
Probably just a lot of Harry's gadgets seem like they're not as useful as they seemed the first time. So
I mean, I can think of one. I think that's in the next book though, but that bear charm.
Right.
Seems like a thing.
Yeah, that never come again.
Right. So there's a lot of that. There's some of the potions that he uses that he basically just never uses again because probably when he used them, bad, terrible things happened. So he's like, yeah, fuck that noise. So
Jim, from a writing perspective, was it wouldn't make a lot of sense story-wise that every time he wanted a potion, he had to stop the story, go back, brew a potion, and be there for 8 hours.
Well, see, I would just abuse my apprentice and make her do it all.
Right.
Yeah. Labor.
That's what apprentices are for.
Exactly. I'm sure he does that off screen, like Molly's practice. But at the same time, when she's practicing, do you really want to trust her potions? Those are
I remember this one scene in a short story where she has to make a potion, and the wolves also running around his apartment, and she's blowing up the entire lab from one potion.
Yeah, that's day off. So
yeah, and the story about that is actually she was trying to do hair dye, magical hair dye. And basically got battery acid all over her clothes and had to strip down in the lab, which is why Bob brings up this thing, hey, you want to see what happens when you strip down? At one point. I don't really remember when that happened.
Nice.
Bob.
So one of the ones that I include on the minutia level, because you have the archive show up, right? Kind of unannounced, sort of, to Harry's apartment. You get the whole Ward Flames candle and kind of see that take off and what a minor deity level power probably looks like to Harry's Ward Flames. But he also kind of mentions he's got this little goodie basket by the door where he's got holy water, a couple of cloves of garlic, vials of salt, and iron filings. Pretty much anything that is vampire or fairy that comes to his house, he's ready for. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Those goodie bags, those descriptions, when he goes to battle the fairy courts and stuff at the end of Summer Night, he has this backpack. He just puts a ton of stuff in it. I don't think he uses any of it, but
which book? Which
Summer Night?
Is it he has that handkerchief of sunlight?
The first one, the one that you don't read.
Yes.
Oh yeah, right. And there's also explained that he never uses it again because you have to be truly happy, and he's not been happy since Susan left.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I love all those descriptions of goodie bags that you take to war. And in cold days, Molly has something because she's probably a lot like me and just needs to be prepared for everything. I'd love to see a description of what she brought, but we'd only see
Right.
granola bars.
The true hallmark of preparedness must surely be granola bars.
Right.
I thought this was interesting. That so to do the ritual for Ulsharavas, Harry gives her scotch and Prince Albert tobacco. That's why he has Prince Albert in a can. That was used as a joke on Sonya later.
Right.
Captured by Nicodemus, Nicodemus starts putting tobacco in a pipe. It's also Prince Albert.
Nice.
I was like, is that
So
really
maybe it's the only tobacco Jim Butcher could remember?
Right.
Yeah.
Or because it's funny, he probably giggled every time he wrote it. So yeah.
Prince Albert.
Somebody should let him out. So I think it's funny that you've got that included here, but you don't have a Cabbage Patch doll.
I do too. There's a Cabbage Patch doll in there somewhere.
It's not in the same spot, at least.
I think it's in a gadget. Yeah, because some people were adding to the document behind the scenes and things got out of order.
Gotcha.
Read through the book.
Yeah, again, that just kind of goes back to, what I was saying earlier about how cool it is, how he uses random little things that I'm sure other wizards feel like too high and mighty about. Like, I really don't picture Ebenezer using a Cabbage Patch doll. Or the Merlin.
Well, at the same
I
time,
can't imagine Ebenezer using a Cabbage Patch doll. I think he's a very practical man.
Yeah,
right.
I'd love to see Morgan handle one, though.
It's not just that, but a lot of the council they're not as flippant as Harry is with calling, or if they were, it was their younger years, because they make, there are multiple references where it's like, yo, now, don't go calling the dark powers. We know there aren't specific laws against it, but it's also not great,
Yeah, please be careful.
Because I think Ebenezer even talks to him specifically and says, that's costly, right? So, but Harry just kind of, in changes, I get it. He doesn't have a lot of options, but
and even there, he never goes to the red binder.
Right.
Well, he never does it.
Right, and Ulsharavas, for example, the most important thing I remember getting out of that is, some self-discovery for Harry. I don't even remember what questions he was asking Ulsharavas in the first place.
It was about the prophecy and stuff. Well, she was saying, right. The first half, but you need to know the second half. And so she kept asking the questions of, why do you do what you do?
Right.
Because that's important.
Right. She had to stand in for Bob, right? Because Bob couldn't do anything. He wasn't on the same wavelength. So...
Yes.
We only take gadgets
she did
from the books, right? Guns and gadgets from books. We're not including comic books.
Oh, no, I'm not doing the comic books.
This is because in that one comic book that I've read that I got here in Christmas, School Goblin, there's this guy who collects a lot of really neat gadgets.
If I get that comic book, then... hint, hint, then I will do the stuff, but I don't have any of the comic books.
Yeah, I'll have to go read that again then. I don't remember that.
Justin, it's your job. You do the comic book stuff.
Right. Well, that's been a topic we've had on the list since the first couple of months when we started doing a topic list, and certain Alex won't read them or anything, so it hasn't really taken off. You've got a library, and they're a comic book. You can probably go steal the information in your brain by just going to a freaking Barnes and Noble and reading it. So
I forgot the world isn't limited to Amazon.
Wait, there's a world outside Amazon?
When's the last time you've been outside, kids? I'm sorry.
I go to Barnes & Noble quite a lot, even though I'm a college student and I really can't afford it. And I actually haven't been able to find anything regarding the Dresden File comics.
Oh,
okay.
That does suck because
all I see are Codex Alera, and then the Dresden File books, but that's it. I haven't been able to find any of the comics or anything.
So at least how they do it here, the comics are in a different section than just Jim Butcher's works, because he'll be in the general fantasy and fiction section, and then I bring it up because I was at a Barnes and Noble to get Christmas presents for Amber because she's also a nerd, and they had the full hardbound copy of Wildcard there, which was the latest. And I've read the first one, but I haven't read the rest. And I was like, oh, if I wasn't Christmas shopping for somebody else, I'd totally pick this up for me. But yeah, so it's on the short list of things to get.
Yeah.
I've never been to a Barnes and Nobles because I'm European.
Dude, seriously, you got to get like another tag phrase, like.
Why? When it works?
Well, because from our perspective, you're one-dimensional. You're the European guy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's just a lot of cultural stuff. We just don't share it. You know.
Well,
I
how's
have
this
no idea
for a
what a
cultural
Barnes and
thing?
Noble. I know the concept of Barnes and Noble because I watch American movies, but I hadn't watched those.
But,
like I would have no
there-
idea what it was.
Stop talking. There's this cultural thing that I thought you probably don't know what a Stetson hat is, Andreas. It's like I didn't either,
I
but
don't know.
Sonya has one at the end-ish of Death Masks, and then Harry takes it off his head and hides under it because Rudolph is right in front of him. Stetson turns out to be just another cowboy hat. I had no idea.
I wear Stetson now. Stetsons are cool. God, you guys.
Really? You wear
Do you
cowboy
watch?
hats?
Do you watch Doctor Who? I mean,
Oh, fucking
I mean, I tried a couple of episodes,
Oh, man.
and I was like, "Wow, this is awful. I'm never gonna watch it again."
okay. So I guess you should probably go look up a Fez as well then. But
I know what a
I've seen
fez
the
is.
fest thing. Like that's like a meme.
right, there's an episode where so the Doctor wears hats, Fezes, and then he switches over to a Stetson, and that's the line. But anyway, so Harry also wore a Stetson once. So
Yeah, that's
for,
why
like,
we see
Harry never wore a hat. I refuse to admit this. No wait.
But he hides under it. Just say it that way. He hides.
right,
Right,
he
so-
can have it in front of his face.
So is that one instance where he wears a cowboy hat the reason why we see it on every cover of every single book?
No, I think Jim might have put it in there as a joke with the artist. To be honest, same with
Well, the line,
I will
do
never wear a
hats."
hat line. I don't do hats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a joke. But the one mention of a hat, I think, is the only time he ever wears one.
I thought he
Minus
wore.
taking off the hat.
He wears a cap once in a while.
I was going to say I thought he wore.
yeah,
a
he
baseball
did.
cap, so
He did, yeah.
like.
All right.
proven
He
guilty
had
or
the
something
FTD
like that.
logo, the flower delivery hat thing when he's going to the Rule's apartment and runs into Grum. And then when he went to the battle in Summer Night, he also was wearing a baseball cap with the Coca-Cola logo on it.
Right. Which is even in this episode we were talking about it.
At least I remembered it in time.
All right.
Cap with Coca-Cola on them. I remembered.
Yep.
All right. Andreas, you have to admit, he wore a hat at least twice.
He wore a cap.
This-
Oh, ooh. So he doesn't wear pants; he wears pantaloons. You know, that's way different.
He wore a cap, and it was for disguise, and he does not wear it regularly. He does not do hats.
He also doesn't giggle; he cackles. So, as I have to point out to Amber all the time, I am cackling.
Also, he doesn't. How is it? In one of the books, he's like, to the untrained ear, it might have sounded like a girly scream, but in reality, it was like a trick to distract my opponent, or something like that. I like little snippets like that.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
yes, he's a professional.
Okay, so this one also
like-
has. Sorry, I was going to go with
Yes.
the Cosmos 5 because that was kind of an important thing that we're going to have to revisit in a future show because Cosmos 5 wasn't in orbit during that time already.
Oh.
So, did you catch that note that I
Okay.
added? So, I went to Wikipedia to see if I could get a picture of it and see what it looks like. I'm like, are we talking like it looks like Sputnik, or are we talking like the generic radar dish on the end? And it is more the radar dish style from what I remember. But also Wikipedia says that its orbit decayed in 1963, which puts it a couple of decades outside of Harry's reach. So unless there's a more different Cosmos 5, that's going to be one of those details that comes up. So
Interesting. I do
Yeah.
like in Death Masks, we have like real gadgets like Valmont and Marcone use radios, and Valmont has a palm-top computer. I include the plastic duck in the gadgets.
Right.
I guess we
Thomas
can kind
and
of
Martin
chalk
had
that
the
Cosmos thing up to
ballpoint pen.
right error, right? That's probably what happened.
Cosmos 5 decayed orbit before Jim Butcher was even born by like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
Right. I mean, maybe
he just looked up Russian satellites, and that was the first one that
Yeah.
came up on Google.
or he picked one out of the air, or he picked one that had already crashed, so that no one would be like, "No, you can't. That one's still up there." You know. Who knows?
That actually might be why he did that.
Right. Different authors make different calls at different times for that sort of thing, but occasionally you get something that's for sure isn't there just because it won't get you into some kind of other trouble later.
Yeah, because there's always that one person.
Brandon Sanderson decides not to swear.
Yeah, I have strong opinions about that, but
yeah, I think that's a more different thing.
like we also have the giant gadget of the helicopter that Marcone has.
You put that under gadgets. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, what else is it?
It is a
It's
pretty
either
cool
that
gadget.
or gear.
Right.
It even has the rescue winches and stuff.
It also has a really cool hunting rifle.
Dude, that's the penultimate gadget. It's got a giant gadget that contains other littler gadgets so that it can go do more gadgety things.
It's like a Batmobile.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of a little bit.
The Batcopter.
Right, and so you mentioned Martin's pen, but it's also like a spy pen, isn't it? So, because
yeah, I guess.
What do you mean you guess it? He talks into it. So either am I missing the
Thomas
context?
talks into it.
Okay.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's a spy pen. It's just that, like, it's a ballpoint pen. Thomas twists it and twists it back. That's all it does. It is technically, I guess, a spy pen, but it's like.
I thought it was
pen.
like.
That's the important.
Yeah, I'm just saying there was like a radio in it, So that's why I'm saying this one. I didn't fully comprehend it as such until this show, but like Deathmask is kind of a spy thriller in a way. Like, you've got you've it's at least like Ocean's 11 before Skin Game, because you got to deal with the thieves and all that jazz. But
all the books are, like he said, like they are very theme based, right? They are like he's watching a movie or several movies in the same theme as he writes the books. They all like Skin Games, his heist, etc.
Right. Well, and I thought he straight up said like Ocean's 11 for that one, or 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Ocean's 12 for Skin Game.
Right.
I also included Thomas's headphones because he's using it to be the party boy.
Right.
Disguises are important. Also, his bottle of scotch.
It was totally Beats, wasn't it?
Product placement.
Yeah.
Right.
Mad product placement.
Hey, give us money. Give us money. We should get a sponsorship from Coca-Cola.
There you go. We've said it like 4 or 5 times now. That's worth at least $1.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, yeah, just in this episode, you talking about guns. Oh, let's get sponsorship from guns.
Like the guns, like not Remington or Colt or anybody, but the guns, right? The big one. So
we mentioned like Colt or like there's an AK-47. Let's just get Kalashnikovs, everyone.
Right.
Let's go to the guns. A lot of guns. In
honestly, I'd be both behind and jealous of a raffle that involved an AK-47. Just saying. So because you can sort of do that in America, unlike Europe. So like the whole thing, all of Europe.
I'll say you can even get a stun gun here.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have to? I'm going to detract for just a second, derail us a little bit. Do you have to get a permit for your airsoft guns, or do you just not even know what it is?
You have to be over 18.
Okay. Yeah. So a buddy was teaching English in Russia and brought a Russian back with him, and we found out that their airsoft guns are even regulated, and that having a deactivated round, basically no primer, no powder or anything, is still technically a punishable offense. And I'm like, so you're helping me move. Do you want to see the real guns? Like, so it started this whole conversation of like, apparently my just my at-home personal use weapons is like multiple life sentences in Russia. So that's fun. That's a fun thing to know.
Russia.
Right.
Russia.
Just saying. I know, right? You like Russia, where you see these videos of people like shooting at each other all the time, and they have this stigma, but apparently that's all American, stigma.
I mean, I've seen some dashboard recordings of people pulling out guns. Basically,
Right.
what I've learned in Russia is
Yeah.
don't drive without a camera.
Right. I'm sure the mafia plays by their own rules, or for all we know, those guys were secret police, for crying out loud. But yeah, it was just interesting because we know those videos, but yeah. So guns. Are we moving on to that, director, or did you have
Yes.
more gadgets you wanted to cover? Okay. So
No, I covered.
right. Yeah, you got your favorite ones.
A
So
helicopter has guns. I
right.
bet.
Not,
Doesn't it have
not in
like
this
mounted
book.
guns on it?
Not that we know of in this book.
Man.
So
In my head, it had
we'll
guns.
get back to-
Well, yeah. In a later book, we'll get your guns on that helicopter. So, so the most prominent gun in this one's the AK-47 that Sonya carries because he's a progressive. So that and the body armor.
and a
right?
Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and AK-47. The K stands for Kalashnikov, which was a Russian dude who made a lot of guns, and that it's its own brand. It's important.
Right. Well, it's the last name of the guy who made it. So
Yeah, it's important.
this one was tough again because so early on, especially Harry and the father get shot at a lot, and mostly Harry doesn't identify the guns, but you do get some guesses at least where Harry talks about one of them has a heavy duty automatic, maybe a Desert Eagle, which you'll see again in Skin Game. That he talks about one having a small caliber pistol with a silencer and probably subsonic ammunition because otherwise it'd defeat the purpose. He kind of goes into some detail there.
He says the silencer probably has metal and glass.
Yeah,
Because
it's not
good
one
quality.
of
So
those cheap ones. Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember if I mentioned this to you before, Justin.
Uh-huh.
But since you love guns, did you ever read or listen to Monster Hunter International?
I haven't. I'm familiar with it. I'm more familiar with the author himself than his works because my dad
He
sort of
loves
knew him,
guns,
but-
I'm sure.
Yeah, no, he loves guns is not fully quantify it or anything like that. He's a very big gun activist and pro-gun rights person, and if you want to read some interesting things, you can always go check out his Facebook because that's where I saw a lot of that, and then just decided he was just a little too abrasive even for my taste. So
Also,
he's very in your face about it, so he's very stereotypically right wing, anti-liberal,
gun nut.
that's a pretty apt description. I'm not going to use that word in most cases, at least not without being ironic, but so like it's neat, and the Monster Hunter books are probably right up my alley, so I'll probably give them a
They are
crack
very
at
good.
some point.
I mean, I'm not a gun enthusiast in any way, clearly, but I think the books are pretty good. They're very pulpy, but they're good.
Right.
They're good read, good entertainment.
Right. Yeah. So.
Anyway, talking about guns. I just wanted
Right.
to bring that up before I forgot again.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. So a couple of shotguns used. Harry's got one that he doesn't really use. He
Is
kind of
that-
brandishes.
Is
What?
that shotgun? Is that the sawed-off shotgun, or is that in a different book? I can't remember.
I think it's the sawed off, if I remember right, because I think Father Vincent asked him if it's
Sold
illegal.
off? That's illegal. Harry wouldn't do that.
Oh, I thought that
Yeah.
was. I thought that was
it
carrot.
has to be a certain length.
Yeah, it has to be.
It can
certain
be
length.
sawed off. It just has to be.
Right. It can't be.
in Harry's. No, I'm mixing two things, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Harry's isn't legal anyway because in Chicago it still has to be licensed, and I'm sure he hasn't. So, pretty sure. But yeah, so.
That's
and
the thing in the book with Molly as well, with his gun even.
Well, and you'll see it again in Blood Rights when we talk about that the next time we do this theme. So, it'll
I
get
forgot
discussed.
a gadget or
What'd you
something.
forget?
Like, well, if Anna Valmont puts handcuffs on Harry. Harry has those handcuffs on him until Molly takes them off with her ring of keys. I think it put it more towards gear, but it's like, hey, that's important. Those handcuffs had place in that important conversation.
Yeah,
And now Harry's got a set of handcuffs.
I love when Harry asks Molly, "Why do you have a key for handcuffs?" That whole conversation.
Really?
You really want to know?
Right?
Think about that.
I love that answer so much.
It's very
That's
self-aware.
Yes.
It's the same with
It's good.
that device, the prickly thing,
Mhm.
where it's like, how do you know what that feels like? And Butter's like, some people use them for recreational activities. It's like, oh.
Yes.
Let's see. There's a Harry's Dirty Harry Callahan number that weighs 75,000 pounds. He describes it as, which is his Smith & Wesson 44 revolver again. Yeah, I do imagine that would probably be very heavy, but 75,000 pounds, still an overreaction.
Just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he can't carry that around until he's the Winter Knight, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes an appearance again, and then there are a couple other nondescript weapons, like Ortega pulls a weapon on Harry that's not really described.
Because it's inside his flesh mask, and ew.
Right. And then
It's a not described gun of some sort. Yes, handgun, right?
Yeah, presumably. I mean, it could have been a hand cannon. Who knows? But then you've got the double barrel shotguns that Kincaid uses with the Dragon's Breath rounds.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to know what that looks like, I found the GIF that was posted to the subreddit, and I put it in my document.
Posted to the subreddit?
Yeah, I got the same GIF that someone else put to the subreddit, and I just popped it in there.
This
was
is
like a gun thread a while ago, I remember.
And this is from the video that I was thinking where FPS Russia uses them in a demonstration video, so they're pretty fun.
I have a question about, because it says down here, Nicodemus shoots Michael with a heavy revolver, and then it says in parentheses a 44. Is that Harry's 44, or does Nicodemus own his own?
I think he just has a generic 44 himself. I think.
Okay. I didn't know if Harry, because that's when Harry is rescued on the island or wherever he's at, and Shiro gives himself up. I didn't know if Harry had his gun on him, and Nicodemus just took it and used it to shoot Michael.
This would be on the train, somewhere in there. It's a long fight scene,
right?
But I think. Nicodemus, he has a katana. He had a gun before. I think he just has generic guns on him. Because he's Nicodemus, he's going to have weapons.
Right.
Well, that, and he's on mission, so he didn't leave home without all the gear and stuff, or the gadgets, or the guns.
I wonder what his gear bag looks like.
Mostly it's shadows, so
That's a good point. Maybe the shadow holds everything.
Right. He uses the shadow as a bag of holding.
Yeah. Right. There was a Martin's sniper rifle, and Justin had opinions. You want to share those opinions?
So with a sniper rifle, it doesn't have to be, but I had always kind of imagined it as a 50 caliber sniper rifle, which again is like a Hollywood famous kind of rifle. Almost every time you see a sniper with a big rifle there, it's going to be one of the 50s. Just because I don't know, maybe because it was the biggest, baddest gun at the time and that sort of thing. But it's Barrett Model 85, like A2 usually, something along those lines. But so it's an anti-material rifle. They usually use it to shoot at trucks or through walls at people and shit like that. So
or through tanks.
Really effing big, yeah. So it's what came to mind for Martin. And, you could probably visualize like that. Maybe Martin's using something a little bit more sleek, like a 338 Magnum type of round where it's not going to be, $4 a shot or more and just really effing like big rounds. But
that's a lot of money a shot.
Yeah. It's guns get expensive. So
I assume that he'd be using the biggest round possible, considering he's going after Duke Ortega.
Right, and that's kind of what I figure. I didn't get a chance to look it up and wasn't really sure everybody would nerd out in the same level I was, so I don't know. Martin probably would have researched what was going to put the most damage down range. So, I mean, if it were me, I would probably go with whatever's going to put the most energy on target, and then maybe have some kind of high explosive round on the end of it or something. Anyway,
do we know the
like if
range
that's
he
an
shoots
option.
at? Like, how far is it?
I think he was just up at the stands, wasn't he? So
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, but
I've never seen an American football stadium. Like, I have no
It's in the football
reference
stadium.
of baseball. Then, sorry.
yeah.
People will be
So
upset
I
at
mean,
you.
have you been to a soccer stadium?
I've been to an ice hockey stadium.
Okay, so most stadiums
Small
are
one.
somewhat similarly sized, but yeah, like it. I mean, we could get into the minutia for that. Part of why I held back from the 50 BMG as well is just because if I'm maybe Martin's confident in his shooting, but if he had missed, that round will go for fucking ever. So it's something like a mile flat line if I remember right. So
I don't think Martin cares about collateral damage, though.
potentially, right? So that was kind of where I'm back and forth, where I'm like, I'm not sure if he would have fully gone with it, but he probably did. He probably just was like, I'd use a rocket, but Susan wouldn't let me because Dresden was there.
Okay, so I'm looking at this picture now. Like direct linked me of Wrigley Fields.
yeah.
If we're gonna assume he's probably like up in the back where he wouldn't be spotted.
Well, yeah, and let's see, Harry and Ortega are either side of the pitcher's mound, so he's at somewhere where he can shoot at Ortega that Harry can see the laser as well, probably behind Harry. But
do
where
we?
he is, like, I don't know.
If you were, would you give out like a qualified guess on yards, Justin?
Nope. Let me see.
100 or two? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like in terms of distance, like yards as
Yeah, like how long the shot was.
Like I have no idea. Honestly, that's why. So
It's just because like I'm watching a TV show called Shooter, and like they
Okay.
actually talk a lot about that in there, which I think is something for you, by the way, Justin.
okay,
It's based on the movie
So-
Shooter. If you saw that.
with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. So I'm not sure where they're measuring this, but Wikipedia gives some measurements. So unless it's like from home plate to there, but it's also on the field, so I guess it's tough to say. So right field, for example, is like 353 feet, which would be 120 yards or so.
And then up in the stands, like that. I mean, that's like maybe like 500 yards, maybe shot. Don't you think?
Well, maybe you're probably looking at let's say 2 to 500 somewhere in there, just because depending on which, like how far up high he was, was he all the way in the back, and was he really up in the stands, or was he up in the offices and that sort of thing, at the front of the field versus the back of the field and stuff. So it's been a little while since I've read it. Like I've gotten different impressions each time. I'll just catch another little detail that
In real life, what is a really impressive shot in terms of yards for a sniper?
well,
I know in the TV show they're like 1,500 is amazing. They're like that's only a few people in the world can do that.
right.
Yeah.
So the gold standard for a sniper is usually 1,000 yards, is right around where they'll train to, and what
Like that's good snipers can do that. 1,000
Right.
yards.
Well, I mean, 1,000 yards is kind of the benchmark. Like a good sniper will do better than that. It depends. I mean, the world record shots are infinitely longer than that. I mean, they're 4 or 5 times that distance, if not even more. Because
5,000 4 or 5,000 yards.
we start. Well, maybe not yards. I'm thinking feet, but because we start measuring them in miles after a point.
So this is because in the TV show again that they use yards. It's the only reference I have, really frame of reference I have in my head.
So,
Even though I
yeah.
use meters because I'm European.
Well, and
yeah,
yards and
it's
meters
like-
are close enough to spit at. So yeah, you'll be off by a few, but at 1,500 yards, you're looking at about 4,500 feet, which is 0.8 of a mile. So it's still a sub mile, whereas 1,000 yards is like roughly a third? No, it's a little over half a mile. So yeah, so and 1,000 yards is kind of the gold standard when you're doing the long guns. Like most hunters don't even come to a third of that. Like 300, 400 yards is really good for a hunting shot. But for snipers, like that's kind of where, somewhere around the half a mile to a mile range.
When I've gone hunting, we'll usually use like a 30-06 or a 300. And about 350 yards is probably right around where you start to get pretty, you're not sure you're going to hit exactly where you want to hit or not. It's usually 350 yards away.
It's interesting to think of maybe the skill that Martin might have, because he's over 100. He said that he's been doing the Fellowship of St. Giles stuff for over 60 years to Harry in changes. So, but
before that he was working with the Red Court Vampires. So
yeah, so like he could be really, really good, or he could just be like
He
anyone
also
who knows
got
how to use a gun.
supernatural strength to use maybe more powered rifles than humans can. Is that like a thing?
Maybe.
I'm
he's using a
I'm
rocket
sure that-
launcher, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure that
The
comes
rifles
into it
that
a little bit, but
humans can't use, basically.
Oh, yeah,
They're too powerful.
recoil mostly matters trying to get it back on target as much as anything.
Yeah, if their powers would affect anything, it'd probably be the recoil. Like maybe it doesn't bruise their shoulders, or I don't know, something like that.
Okay, so it
one
only
thing
matters
that
on
I-
like multiple shots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's the part that they're going to benefit from is the fact that their powers also allow them to be supernaturally still, because most people, when they breathe and that sort of thing, that will make the motions. But when we're talking about shots over 1,000 yards, it's almost more about the math and the gun and the round than it is about the shooter. Like, you wouldn't even attempt to shot out to that distance if you weren't, certain levels of accuracy at closer ranges. So without getting into the technical aspects, like, you have to be a really
Wind matters at that range too, right?
right, exactly. So windage, curvature of the earth, things like that. A lot of math really comes into it at that point, up and beyond your natural skill. You have to have a weapon that's capable of even doing that, because otherwise, so for example, a little bit of the technicality is that they measure out to 100 yards how big of a grouping you can shoot. And think about deflection of like an inch at 100 yards is a deflection of 10 inches at 1,000 yards. So that's the kind of, scale that you're talking about. That out to 1,000 yards, you have to be less than an inch deflection at 100 yards, because when you miss, you're going to miss an entire person in 10 inches or can. That's the difference that you're talking about.
That is actually like in that TV show. He brings that up where he's training someone, and he's like, "What does it matter if I can't hit this can at not very far away?" And then he's like, "Because when you're like X yards away, the humans will be the size of cans."
Right, exactly.
One thing that I noticed we didn't really talk about that has always been super interesting to me is Nicodemus's rope. Judas.
That's in there under gear.
Yeah, I see it, but we didn't really. We kind of brushed over all of that with, and that's believed to be the same rope that Judas Iscariot used to hang himself after he realized that he had betrayed Jesus.
Not that he knew, but that he caused Jesus' death. But yeah, I think that's the prevalent theory, right? That's what it is. We've never heard it any different.
Yeah. I thought even one of the characters talked about the idea that might be the same rope. But
I think Preston brings it up in his head, like he thinks about it, and we follow his thought. Is that how it is? And it's been a while since I read
It's either
that
that
book.
or when Michael's talking about his history and that sort of thing, he brings it up.
But I always thought that was kind of interesting because Denarians, can they be killed? They can be killed. Right, correct.
They're tough
We've
to
seen
kill,
a
but they
couple.
can't be killed. We've seen them being killed before.
Right.
Right.
But with that hangman's noose, it's kind of like wards off death or something, I think they say. Like,
Only thing
Yeah.
that can kill him is basically the noose.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Because in one of the books, Harry grabs the rope and starts to choke Nicodemus.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the island
He actually
one.
does that in Death Mask as well. It's like that's when he kind of clues in, and then like it
Yeah.
makes Nicodemus run away. and then he actually does try to kill Nick that way in small favor.
Yeah, he really gives it all he got in the book. He turned completely purple, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun book for this series. There's this quip that Harry makes that when he goes to the duel with Ortega, he's wearing a black silk shirt because the Mongols or somebody wore it because it would help protect against arrows. Not that there would be arrows at the duel, but who knows? And the Wikipedia page on Mongolian armor supports Harry's statement. I don't know if Wikipedia is right, but
no, yeah, it's a true statement. The idea was that even if they got hit and it penetrated, that they would be able to pull out the arrow because arrows are designed in such a way that when they enter the flesh, they stay there and do damage when they come out. But the silk was supposed to help limit the amount of entrance and then make it easier to get them out. So
the best way to get them out, if I remember right from movies, is you break off like the wood and then you push it through, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Disregard anything behind the arrow and any vital organs you probably.
Depending on where you got hit, but like say you got hit in the arm, in a muscle.
So kids, in case you're listening to this and you're not sure, the best thing to do if you get shot by an arrow is to fucking call 911 and to leave it in and let the doctor.
Yeah, but I mean, like back then, in the middle
ages, they probably didn't do that, but I don't know.
It kind of depends on things. Like maybe it would be easier to pull it out depending on where it actually rooted in, but a lot of the times they try to leave it in and hope that the body would scar around it and not cause like a sepsis or something. As long as it was secure in one area of the body, you wouldn't get sick and die. You would just have a thing inside you. But other times you would just get septic and die. But they left it in because otherwise they had this bleeding hole.
Right.
I'm very happy I don't live in the Middle Ages.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So
I just read about it instead once in a while.
Right. Focusing on that, it makes even more sense with the whole like the worst thing than a bleeding hole is two bleeding holes because you just pushed it through your entire body. So, but
oh sure, I even saw something on the History Channel about it one
time. Are we running out of things to talk about for these two books?
I don't think I have any more details or little nuggets. A lot of the stuff I was excited about was Blood Rights, so that's like, woo, go Blood Rights next time.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We didn't get
it's all good.
Blood Rights finished to my satisfaction because of my own procrastination. I'm so sorry.
You were under the weather, right? So
a little bit.
I get the broad strokes, but I didn't get all the references to chalk and blue smocks and things like that. So
Mock was helpful. So says Andrea. Okay. Otherwise, let's just plug all of our stuff. But Alex isn't here.
We forgot about the cool hunting rifle. I like that. Like Macron has this really neat hunting rifle that's like meant for shooting elephants, and like in my head, it just looks really badass. I don't know if it's ever mentioned like what kind of it is. I don't think it is, right?
I don't think so.
But like, I imagine almost kind of like a big shotgun kind of with a big scope on it and like a laser sight. And it looks cool.
I think you're thinking of Martin's gun as a handheld gun. But what you picture Marcone's gun to be is probably what Martin's gun looks like.
Maybe Martin let Marcone borrow the gun.
Guy like that. Right. Let's plug all of our other stuff. Like I have High Fantasy. We did an episode yesterday at an ungodly time in the morning because Jacob decided to go to Orlando and Disney World. And then Shylocks might be coming back.
Right. Yeah.
But still go check. Yeah, scare you. Dangerous to Go Alone is on hiatus because of holidays, and I think they're moving, but they'll be coming back at some point. 42 is also on hiatus. Great Scott is still ongoing because they're only in season 3 of The Office. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, do check out the Broken Jars holiday special because that was a lot of fun. I don't remember parts of it.
You can put like a link
bourbon
on the post on Reddit at least, so the people who find it that way can get it. Maybe put it in the YouTube description as well if anyone's interested.
Sure.
Pretty fun episode.
It was very fun to do. I don't remember parts of it. I should watch it. But yeah, we did a Secret Santa, and it was fun. Jonah, do you have anything that you would like to plug and get attention to?
Yeah, my personal YouTube channel is Shadow and Movie Story Productions. And I just post videos that I make for college and for different video assignments. Check them out; they're pretty cool. And yeah, that's about it. I really don't have a lot.
So you can contact us at the Twitter or the Gmail or anything. We have lots of ways, and they're all listed on the Reddit post. So you better go there for all of your information. And that's it. So everyone say goodbye.
Hi, everyone.